Lesson 20. Why you paper trade before you go live. Let me start with a story I've watched happen more times than I can count. Someone spends weeks building a strategy. They backtest it over 2 years of data, and the numbers are beautiful. 68% win rate. 30% annual return. Max drawdown under 12%. They run it on different time periods. It holds up. They feel the dopamine. They're convinced they've cracked it. So they wire real money to the exchange. Switch the bot to live mode, and go to bed. A week later they're down 9%. Nothing in the backtest explained that. The strategy isn't doing anything obviously wrong. The signals are still firing, but the fills are worse than expected. Some orders didn't go through at all because the exchange throttled them. A stop loss triggered at a price they'd never seen in the historical data. And now they're sitting there at 2 in the morning, wondering which thing they trusted that lied to them. That gap between the backtest and the live week is the gap this entire lesson is about. And the only honest bridge across it is something called dry run or paper trading. Why backtests lie, even when they're not really lying. A backtest is a simulation. It feeds historical prices into your logic and pretends the bot was running back then. The output is a clean report. Number of trades, win rate, profit, drawdown. And those numbers are real in the sense that they really would have happened if the world had been as clean as the simulation assumed. The problem is that it wasn't. There are a few specific lies a backtest tells, and I want you to know them by name. The first one is execution. In a backtest, when your strategy says buy at $100, the simulation just assumes you got filled at $100. In the real market, by the time your order reaches the exchange and gets matched, the price might have moved to 100.3. That gap is called slippage. On a single trade it sounds trivial. Across hundreds of trades it eats a surprising amount of your edge. Some strategies are razor thin on margin per trade, and slippage alone turns them from green to red. The second is data quality. Backtests use clean, closed candles. Live data arrives in pieces. Sometimes an exchange sends a weird tick, a spike that lasts 1 second and disappears. A real bot sees that spike and might react to it. Your backtest never saw it because it didn't exist in the historical record, or it was filtered out after the fact. The third is connectivity. Your backtest assumes the bot was awake and paying attention for every minute of every day across 2 years. Live, your server will restart, your internet will blip, the exchange will rate limit you, and during those windows the bot is effectively blind. If a perfect entry signal happens to fire in those 5 minutes, you miss it. Backtests don't miss anything. The fourth is market impact, which matters less for small accounts, but matters more than people think. Your own orders move the market slightly. A backtest that ignores your effect on liquidity is, in a small way, lying to you. And the smaller or more illiquid the coin, the bigger that lie. And the fifth is the one nobody wants to hear. A backtest is run against a fixed slice of history that will never repeat. The conditions of early 2023, the specific sequence of news, the order in which whales moved, the exact panic of one bad weekend. None of that is coming back. Your strategy learned those conditions. Whether it generalizes to conditions it has never seen is the entire question, and no backtest can answer it. So when I tell you that even a beautiful backtest doesn't owe you anything, live, that is not cynicism. That is just an honest accounting of what a backtest is and isn't. What dry run actually is. Dry run, also called paper trading, is Freqtrade's answer to that gap. And the idea is almost stupidly simple. You take the exact same bot, the exact same strategy file, the exact same config, and you run it against live market data, but you never send a real order to the exchange. The bot thinks it is trading. It pulls real prices in real time. It computes indicators on the actual live candles. It fires the same buy and sell signals your live bot would fire. It tracks an imaginary balance, imaginary open trades, imaginary profits and losses. But no money moves. It is a dress rehearsal. The full show, with costumes and lights and the audience in their seats, except the tickets are free and nobody goes home poorer. The reason this matters is that it closes almost every lie from the last section. Slippage you still won't see perfectly, because there is no real order to slip. But you'll see the data issues. The connectivity blips, the weird ticks, the rate limits, the moments where your bot tried to do something and the exchange said no. You'll see whether the strategy actually fires signals at a frequency you can live with. You'll see what happens overnight when you are asleep. You'll see how the bot behaves on a slow Sunday and on a wild Monday. And crucially, you'll see it on data the strategy has never seen before. Live data, new data. The exact thing the backtest couldn't test. How long is long enough? This is the question everyone asks, and the honest answer is longer than you want it to be. The bare minimum I'd consider is 2 weeks. And I mean bare minimum. That is enough to catch obvious disasters, like the bot crashing every 4 hours, or filling up your disk with logs, or spamming the exchange until it bans your IP. 2 weeks will expose the engineering problems. It will not tell you much about the strategy. To say anything real about the strategy, you want at least a month, and ideally 2 or 3. The reason is variance. Markets have quiet weeks and wild weeks. Trends come and go. A strategy can look like a genius for 10 days, and then give it all back in 2. If your dry run only covers the genius 10 days, you'll go live overconfident and get punched in the face the first bad week. You want your dry run to span different market regimes if you can. A choppy stretch and a trending stretch. A high volatility week and a dull one. You want to see how the strategy behaves when nothing is happening, because a lot of strategies die not from big losses but from 1,000 tiny ones during dead periods, when the signals fire on noise. I know 2 months sounds like a lot. I know it feels like wasted opportunity cost, like you are leaving gains on the table while fake money just sits there. Push through that feeling. The money you miss during dry run is a rounding error compared to what you lose by going live too early with a strategy. You don't actually understand. 2 months of patience buys you years of not being the person in the opening story. There is a second reason to run it long, and it is not about the strategy. It is about you. The psychological dress rehearsal, even with a bot doing the trading. You are still very much in the loop, and dry run is where you find out what kind of trader you are. You'll watch the fake balance go red for 3 days straight. You'll feel the pull to turn the bot off. You'll feel the urge to tweak the parameters. You'll see a trade that you would have caught if you'd just gone live last week, and you'll feel the greed. You'll get a string of wins and start calculating what you'd have made with real money. And you'll feel the temptation to skip the rest of the validation and just go. All of that is data. Dry run isn't just testing the strategy, it is testing your reaction to the strategy. If you can't sit through a fake drawdown without messing with the bot, you absolutely will not sit through a real one. And the real one will be worse, because in a real drawdown there is actual money on the line, and the urge to intervene is 10 times stronger. So use the dry run period to build the habits you'll need live. Decide in advance how often you'll check the bot. And stick to it, because checking every 5 minutes is its own kind of problem. Decide in advance what would make you stop the bot. A drawdown of some fixed percent. A number of losing trades in a row, whatever your rule is, and write it down before you need it. Decide in advance when you'll tweak parameters, ideally not for the whole dry run, because if you keep changing the strategy you are not testing anything, you are just chasing. Treat the dry run like the live run. Same discipline, same rules, same emotional investment, just without the financial consequences when you make a mistake. What to actually watch during dry run? Let me get concrete about what you are looking for, because watch the bot is too vague. The first thing is whether the live signals roughly match what your backtest predicted. If the backtest said the strategy would take about 40 trades a month on the pairs you configured, and the live dry run takes 3 trades in 3 weeks, something is off. Maybe the data feed is different. Maybe the indicator values are computed slightly differently. Maybe a buy condition is too tight and almost never triggers. This mismatch is one of the most valuable things dry run reveals, and it is almost always invisible in the backtest. The second thing is system stability. Does the bot stay up overnight? Does it reconnect gracefully when the exchange drops the connection? Does it handle rate limits without crashing? Does it log errors you don't understand? Any of these is fixable, but you want to fix them now, not at 3 a.m., with real positions open. The third is the shape of the trades, not just the total profit, which is noisy over short periods, but the pattern. Are the winners and losers distributed the way the backtest suggested? Are the losing trades clustering in specific market conditions? Are you getting a lot of trades that open and almost immediately close? Which often means the entry logic is too twitchy. You are looking for qualitative fit, not just numbers. The fourth is monitoring and alerts. Dry run is when you set up the Telegram integration, or whatever notification system you plan to use live, and you find out whether the alerts are useful or just noisy. A good alert tells you something happened that you needed to know. A bad alert wakes you up 6 times a night for things that don't matter. Get this right now, while the alerts are free, instead of muting them later when they cost you sleep. The fifth, and this one sneaks up on people, is whether the strategy actually fits your life. Some strategies need constant supervision. Some you can leave alone for a week. Some are calm, some are stressful. Dry run is your chance to find out which kind you've built, and to decide honestly whether that kind of strategy is one you can live with. The honest part, dry run can lie too. I want to be careful here, because I've been selling you on dry run as the truth teller, and it mostly is, but it has its own blind spots. And I'd be lying if I didn't name them. The biggest one is that there is no real money on the line, which means there is no real emotion on the line either. You can tell yourself you'd hold through a 20% drawdown, and the fake balance will let you believe it, because the fake balance doesn't make your stomach drop the way a real one will. Dry run trains your discipline, but it can't fully train your nerve. Only real money does that, and only in small amounts. The second is slippage. Because no real order goes to the exchange, dry run assumes fills that are sometimes slightly better than what you'd actually get. For most liquid pairs, this gap is small. For less liquid ones, especially on smaller timeframes, it can be material. Keep a mental discount on the dry run returns for this. If a strategy only works because of razor-thin margins per trade, dry run will flatter it. The third is that dry run, like the backtest, is still a snapshot of one market period. Run it during a calm 2 months, and you'll learn what the strategy does in calm markets. You won't learn what it does in a crash until the crash comes. Dry run extends your sample, it doesn't make it infinite. So treat dry run as a necessary step, not a sufficient one. It catches a lot. It doesn't catch everything. Nothing catches everything. When you actually go live, so how do you know when you are done? There is no ceremony, there is no bell. You are done when? Over a period of at least a few weeks of dry run, 3 things are true. The live signals are matching the backtest's expectations in frequency and character. The system has been stable. No unexplained crashes. No weird data spikes derailing it. No alerts you can't explain. And you've sat through at least one rough patch, a few red days or a string of losing trades without pulling the plug or rewriting the logic. If all 3 of those hold, you've earned the right to go live. And I mean that word earned. Going live is not the start of the work. It is the reward for the work you already did. And when you do, start small. Absurdly small. An amount of money where if you lost all of it tomorrow you'd shrug. That is the right size for your first live run. Because the first live run is still partly a test. You are testing whether the live behavior matches the dry run behavior. Whether the fills look like you expected. Whether the real money changes how you feel in ways the fake money didn't prepare you for. You can always scale up later. Scaling down after a loss is much harder emotionally than scaling up after a win. The takeaway 2 things I want you to walk away with. The first is that backtesting is necessary, but not sufficient. And dry run is the bridge that turns a backtest from a story about the past into something you can cautiously trust in the present. Skipping it is the most common avoidable mistake in this entire field. Don't skip it. The second is that the dry run period isn't really about the strategy. It is about you. It is about building the habits, the rules, the monitoring, and the emotional tolerance. You'll need to actually run a bot with real money without sabotaging yourself. The strategy will do what the strategy does. Whether you survive running it is mostly a question of whether you did the unglamorous work of preparing yourself for it. Run it for weeks, not days. Watch it closely. Fix what breaks. Be honest about what you see. And when you finally go live, go small. The whole point of this stage is to make sure that by the time real money is on the table, nothing about the experience is new.